Hey there, fellow tennis junkies. Today I'm going to be testing out a theory about budget racket restringing. Let's take a look. So for the video today, I decided to put my Technofiber Razor Code 17 gauge in the mains and this cheap synthetic gut by Ytex, the Ytex Syntex in the crosses. I wanted to test out the theory that if I put a good quality polyester string in the mains, which is typically the most important string in your tennis racket, and then I put a really cheap string in the crosses, would it have the same effect as doing a full bed? By doing this, we could potentially save $3 or $4, maybe even more depending on what string you're using, every single restring. And whenever you're on a tight budget, that can be really helpful. But today we're gonna find out if it's really worth it. So my partner and I started out with short court. And in short court, I really could already feel the difference. It just did not feel as crisp, or it didn't really pop, the ball didn't really pop off the string the way that I'm used to with this full bed of the Razor Code. As you can see here, I felt like I was dumping a lot into the net. And while I know that a lot of that could be my actual form, I felt like I just didn't get as much spin as I normally did, which is weird to me, because I've always thought as the main string being the primary spin provider. But I noticed a very clear difference in both short court and full court on forehands and backhands. Honestly, the feel wasn't terrible. I'll be honest, the feel was not terrible, but I wasn't really sold on the idea. While it felt okay to hit the ground strokes and I got an okay amount of spin and control and everything, I had no snapback on the strings. The main strings were really catching on my cross strings because that synthetic gut was starting to wear away pretty quickly. The Razor Code is a round copoly, so typically they snap right back into place, and that's what I've become used to at this point, and it just was not working out in my favor. Whenever I really went for a heavy ball, I felt like I had no spin. No spin at all, which is a major problem for me. Whenever I went for the super flat shots, the harder shots, just whenever I was trying to drive it deep, honestly, it felt pretty good. I was kind of impressed. If you're a player who hits really, really flat, this might be a good option for you. You get to keep the durability of having that main string as a polyester, but it is a little bit cheaper, as we mentioned before. Now, Sean, my partner, was telling me that the ball that I was hitting was not coming with nearly as much spin. Again, my biggest problem with stringing a hybrid up this way was the spin. Ideally, this would have been a perfect setup, but it just didn't work for me. It just was not clicking the same way a full bed of polyester would. On the volleys really weren't bad. I was really impressed actually with how the volleys felt. I still felt like they were crisp, they snapped a little bit, they went deep. I felt like I had okay touch. It wasn't great, the feel wasn't amazing on the little tiny drop volleys, drop shots and that sort of thing, but it wasn't bad. By far it was better than a full bed of synthetic gut. Synthetic gut and a full bed at a competitive level is just not gonna work. It's just you're killing yourself trying to do that. As you can see right here, I have myself playing with a full bed of the Razor Code, and while you may not notice a major difference, I'm definitely getting more spin on the ball, and I just felt like it was a lot better feel. It wasn't like a gummy feeling. That's the best way that I can describe it. I wish I had a better way of describing it, but whenever I put something soft in the crosses of my racket with a polyester, it just felt gummy and mushy. It just didn't have that crisp feel that polyester normally does. Serves were a pretty big disappointment. Serves were pretty bad. I play with a lot of kick. I'm pretty big. I stand 6'6", so my kick serve is kind of like a staple to my game. So is my flat serve. On the kicks, it didn't work. It felt terrible. I felt like I had no control over the ball. It barely jumped off the court. It was just so disappointing. Now hitting it flat, just like the ground strokes, it felt great. It felt the exact same. I was just playing baseball out there. So if you hit only flat, again, this might actually be a real setup for you. If you're looking for an even cheaper string, I would honestly recommend IsoSpeed, the company IsoSpeed or Kirschbaum. Companies like that are really small that you may not have heard of, they might be producing really great strings at a really cheap cost. And just because you don't see Rafael Nadal or Roger Federer playing with the string doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means the companies didn't have a cajillion dollars to pay the players. Something like ISO speed baseline control, one of my favorite YouTubers, Mark Sanset, mentions it and has a great review of the string on YouTube. It's almost identical to Head Hawk at 1/4 of the cost. There's tons of options out there for you as players. And here I'm gonna go ahead and list a couple that I would personally recommend, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you the prices of those on their respective websites. Last thing I would recommend is really be open-minded. I know sometimes you're gonna see a company and they don't have a big following, they don't have tons of reviews, something along that line. What's the harm? If you find what's gonna work out perfectly for you in the end, it's probably worth the money. There's tons of reviews online. I've been trying to work on my own string reviews and things like that here. I'm really hoping to do an ISO speed baseline control one coming up here soon, but it's kind of hard to find the string right now. But again, the company doesn't have to be Wilson, Lux Salon, Yonex. It doesn't have to be a big name company for it to be a good string. It really doesn't. I mean, I think of Solinco itself as a big name company, and it's really not even in comparison to those main Wilson, Babolat, all those brands. So go to Tennis Warehouse, do some Googling. There's tons of options on there, and on Tennis Warehouse even, they have little sections. You can see all the companies listed. I believe it's on the left side of the webpage. You can see all the companies listed that create strings, and just start clicking on stuff that you aren't used to. I mean, try it out. There's some stuff that's insanely cheap, tons of discount codes. Trust me, if you're gonna be needing to play with polyester, it's worth it to do a full bed. If you guys have any of your own thoughts on budget tennis strings or hybrid setups that may have worked, make sure you drop a comment down below. I'm planning on releasing some string reviews in the upcoming weeks, so make sure you keep an eye out for that, and I'll see you guys in the next one.